Welcome to Money Convos, where we discuss personal finance and investment tips. We're committed to helping people create wealth and achieve financial freedom. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. All right then, let's head into today's conversation.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's conversation. We have an interesting one coming up, and it's a series of conversations we have every now and then about people's experiences moving from Ghana to other countries. So today we are going to have a conversation about moving to the UK. We're expecting two people who are who follow the education path to get to the UK. PhD holders, so it will be interesting. This will be a very learned conversation. So try to give people some understanding of how to get to the UK if you are thinking about furthering your education and life beyond your graduation. Dennis, how are you doing?
The boss himself, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm all right. The way your acoustics are by now, you are hiding in some tokro somewhere.
No, I beg.
Okay. All right. Cool. Anyway, Rufus, I see you in the audience. Oh, Rufus just dropped off, but okay. We'll wait for him to get back and then he can join us up here. Dennis, did you join last week's conversation?
Yes, I was here.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, yeah. I've just been thinking about that later, and there were some other conversations. But in case anyone is wondering what we are talking about, last week we had a conversation about someone who was wondering if she was wrong about not wanting to leave inheritance for her family. Interesting conversation. Go check it out. You can go, if you are listening on X or Twitter, you can go through the timeline and our profile and replay it, or you can go on YouTube or whoever you listen to podcasts to play it back. Charlie, Dennis, what's going on? What's going on lately in the world of Ghana?
Because you know that the weather is still hot, the economy is still hot, but we be inside.
I see. I heard the doomsday right now is so intense. In times like this, people will be wondering, more motivated to Japan. So our conversation is just coming in at the right time.
Exactly.
I see Paulina has also joined, trying to get Paulina to come up. Adam, how are you doing?
Kevin, I'm doing good. Yourself?
Lately we have what's it called? The young people call it a relationship these days. I sent you sent me this back and forth videos. There's a channel I discovered recently on personal finance. People not taking their finances seriously. The channel or the account is Caleb Hammer on Instagram, where I think they call it a financial audit, and they just go through people's financial situation, their bank statements and all that, trying to give them advice about how to fix the problems going on there. And it's interesting. It's just interesting. So I encourage everyone to just go check it out, especially if you are thinking about moving to the US or if you are already here, to be aware of certain mistakes that you shouldn't be making. Yeah. So we have Paulina here with us. Hello, Paulina. How you doing?
I was interested in. I've always wanted to do media and communications. Then, after I did media and after I did my first degree, I worked in what's the name? Microfinance for about 2 years. And then I tell people that when I could afford to pay for my own fees, I went back to school to study for what I really wanted, which was the media and communication studies.
Specifics about you shared some specifics about why you choose. Rufus, welcome to Money Convos. How about you introduce yourself to our audience, and like Paulina did, also tell us about your background and your journey and how you ended up in the UK.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the opportunity to share my experience. Hi, everyone. A bachelor's in civil engineering. So after that, I served for the national service as a teaching assistant in a university, and then I decided to move on to study a master's. So then I had to try different universities in America, in Europe, and in the UK. And I finally arrived in the UK in 2018 to study a master's. But then the experience, in coming here was I went for an exhibition in Kumasi, Golden Bean Hotel, where they had different UK universities displaying their, sharing how to apply and then come into the UK through their application systems. So I met someone, Emma, for the application, and then I made an application to the university. I didn't even check, but then she reached out to me and said, "You have an offer." And we had to go through the whole process, which probably share later. And then I ended up here in 2018. So that's just a quick one on that.
That's great. That's great. That was a nice. It was opportunistic for you to get to that event to get to hear about all those opportunities. Okay, so
Yeah.
what we'll do now, since you both have the experience, I'll throw the questions that you alternatively, unless you have different thoughts on it. So let's get back to Paulina. So Paulina, you touched a bit on why you chose the UK. You didn't like the US because you'd have to go to school for longer. You didn't like that one. But why the UK specifically?
So I knew that the UK had a 4-year system, really it's 3.5 years. But you can finish.
Rufus, how about you? Did you have any other considerations for your program?
To be fair, my answers may be a bit biased to football because I really much like football and I used to follow Liverpool. So I wanted to come to the UK and come to watch football. So comparing the UK to other universities, one thing that was for me was my interest in football and I wanted to come here. Another thing was the duration of the masters. As in 2018, it was just a year to study a master's in the UK compared to a little over a year in the US, getting to 2 years. So I had a few offers in the US, but I decided to look solely on focus on the UK. Also, as at the time we started applying for universities, I think there was a lot of safety concerns, especially this gun violence in the US compared to the UK. So I was like, for safety reasons, let me also gear towards the UK. And also the time zone was a really important key for me. So I'll be able to connect to my family. Not so much difference in the time zone. It's usually the same or sometimes just an hour difference. So those are most of the things that made me choose the UK over other countries. I didn't really much look at European countries, although I did a few applications to them. But the challenge for me for other European countries was that you could still speak English and do your academic work, but then I was looking at life with friends. After education, you need to speak to people, learning a different language. I didn't think I was ready to learn different languages and stuff like that, which is not bad to do, but I didn't think I would have that easy compared to, here the UK where you just speak English. Any friend you find, you can speak English, and then you're okay. So these are a few things that made me choose the UK compared to other countries.
That's interesting. Man's like, I can't go and kill myself, run away from all the violence going on in the US. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And just on a lighter note, I'm curious, have you been able to live your dream of going to watch soccer matches?
Oh yes, I have done that now. And now, if I leave the UK, I'm okay because I've achieved that. I've done that a couple of times, and I'm so happy I've been able to do that. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong going to the US because I've had friends because I left to the UK. Two of my friends went to the US. They are still in the US. They are not dead. So I know it's just something. It's just fear, but you can equally go to the US because there are good opportunities as well. I'd love to go there if I get a chance. But when I was in 2018, I wasn't thinking of going to the US. But now I'll probably go if I get a chance. But not in 2018. I didn't think I had the courage to go there.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good to know. We are still alive here. Yeah. So Paulina, you mentioned your main focus was the time it would take. So is it safe to say you've been in the UK for 3-4 years now?
So I will be 5 years this September.
Nice.
So just a little above 4.
Okay. All right. So going back to that the decision of how you chose the country, the program that you do also matters. Like when you go online, there are so many options. You go to, for any given school, there are so many programs. How did you choose what you wanted to do, and how would you encourage people to figure out the right program for themselves?
All right. So what I encourage people to do is, once you decide on the program, look for supervisors. So if you see somebody's research interest intersects with what you want to do, then it's a good place to start. There are also schools that are known for certain things. So the University of Westminster, for example, is very well known for its media and communications program around the world. Now, once you have zeroed in on that, and then you think of the supervisor, because contrary to what everybody thinks, for a PhD program, your supervisor is, in my opinion, about 50% of the work done. If you get somebody that you don't agree with on a lot of things, it might drag you back a bit. So decide on the school that you want based on their popularity in the program and things like that, in the program of choice, and then look for a supervisor. Sometimes it does not work that way, but a lot of times that is how it works. In some places, for example, I know you can write to the supervisor if they have funding, then they will get you into what is called a lab, but not necessarily a lab every time. It's as in their research group. Then you can start from there.
Gotcha.
I hope it makes sense.
Yeah. So is that part of the application process? Is it separate from finding the person, or the person has to, you have to find the supervisor when the supervisor gives you the go ahead before you do the application? Which one comes first?
You look for the supervisor first. In my experience, you look for the supervisor first, like somebody who aligns with your research interests. And then sometimes they will give you the funding. Do you get what I mean? So because their research interest aligns with yours and they have funding for a particular program, then they will encourage you to apply. And I think there's a process where the university is triangulated. So it gets you into, the lab of that particular supervisor. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
Yes.
Thanks for that. Rufus, you also did, so that was a process for a PhD. You also did a master's, and I'm sure some people in our audience have not yet reached your level where they will say, "Oh, I want to do PhD." How about the master's process too? How is the application for that like?
So, I mean, I didn't add earlier that I'd finished my PhD as well. So, it's quite different, my scenario, because when I studied the master's, I wanted to do a PhD as well because my goal was to become a lecturer. So I had to do something which was quite different. Once I was here, I then spoke to my lecturers. I didn't know them before I came in here. So what I did was a few weeks in the course, then I went to one of them and said, "Oh, you know what? I've been following you. Not that I'd followed him, but I've been following your research and stuff like that. I'm interested in doing a PhD." And what his response was, was that if you get a distinction, then I can try and get some funding so you can get onto one of the PhD programs. So that's how it started. So it was like a challenge, get a distinction, and then we can get you onto it. So that's how I got a PhD offer during my master's. So I got the offer in the system, and that was easy because once he had seen my results, my first semester results, he was okay with it. So what happened was I did the application. I didn't put in any proposal, because at that point I didn't know what I was doing, if that makes sense. But because he had the decision, he made a decision. The university just approved the application. So I had an offer in the system. But what happened was it then had to go for funding, and then I didn't get the funding. So it was quite disappointing at that point. But then after my master's, I worked for the university as a research assistant. That was on another program which I like to share for people to apply. You don't have to be in the UK before you can get it, because that also has a bit of mobility rules. It's called the Marie Curie Fellowship. Some may know about it. It's a fellowship where it cuts across different disciplines, where for example, they may have a post in the UK and they have mobility rules, which means that you shouldn't have been in the UK for 12 months. So you could be in Ghana and apply for it, and then you can come and do it, which is also a good opportunity and really, really it pays a lot. So I was fortunate to get on that, and I was fortunate because my thesis and everything, my dissertation was marked before the end of September, because I came in September 2018, and because they wanted to give me the role, they finished everything so that I don't stay here until the 20th of September. So I got my results and everything in late August, and then I got that job. So one good thing about that job was that whilst you were on the job, you could study a PhD. So my PhD offered, which was in the system, was then moved further to December. So I started a PhD then, and whilst I was working for the university, I wasn't paying fees for the PhD because I was working for the university on that program. So that's one special thing about the Marie Curie Fellowship as well. So I didn't have to pay for the fees, and I was being paid the salary because I was working. So I wasn't given like a stipend or anything. So I was just being paid to do the PhD. There's a lot more to that, but that's how I got into my PhD.
That's interesting. A lot of opportunity in terms of the right timing, right place, putting in the work to be prepared for that. And but yeah, I'm also curious, like the process for applying to the master's program. I know you met somebody, you met some schools at the event in the hotel in Kumasi, but what did the process for the application involve?
Okay, I think as at that time, I wanted to do a course in transportation because that was one of the courses that was highly ranked in the University of Nottingham. So I think to do the application, you had to put in a personal statement. There was an application portal where you had to answer a few questions in terms of who you are, your particulars in terms of your passports and all those things. But then the few key things that were there were more of why you'd want to study the course, why the course, why the UK, and all those bits, which you basically had to put in that information through your personal statement. And I think one important thing is, of course, the funding to study a master's. So I remember when I had the offer, I needed to find the funding for this. Now, the University of Nottingham, which is the university in which I was, provides a Developing Solutions flagship scholarship opportunity, which either gives you 50% of the tuition fees or 100% of the tuition fees. So I was a lucky beneficiary of 100%. So my tuition fees was covered. So I had to take off my living expenses when I came in to do the master's. So that's how the master's application went on about. I applied for a few scholarships in Ghana, Scholarship Secretariat, GSS, and then the one in I've forgotten the name. There's one GNPC. Get Fund. Yeah, Get Fund. That was a whole lot of different stories with that.
Your connections were not strong enough.
It wasn't at all. It wasn't at all. I remember making a trip I was told I would get it. I made a trip from Kumasi to Accra overnight just so I could put in my applications, go back to work in Kumasi the next morning, but nothing worked. Funny enough, on my way back to Kumasi on the VIP bus, then I received the how do you call that thing? I received the email saying that I got a scholarship. So on the bus, I was just excited. Got on my knees on the bus. People were just looking at me, but they had no idea what I was going through at that point. So that was how I managed to secure scholarship. Yeah.
Yeah. So on this topic of scholarships, right? It's good for people to search for scholarships to help with the funding. But what sets you apart as an individual to give you an opportunity to win the fattest of scholarships possible?
I think one, it has to do with your academic performance. Your transcript has to be good. I think I before this meeting, I think I put a few scholarship opportunities from different universities down. So probably if I have the time, I will share. But then the Developing Solutions Scholarship, you had to write something about how beneficial you would be to your home country. So the way you write is important. The message you carry across is important. How beneficial whatever you think you are going to study will be to your country is really important. I think that's at my time. Ghana started, I think in 2018, I went for a conference in Ghana where they said they were going to bring railways to the country, start the railway system. So I think I wrote a bit more on that coming to study a course in railway and transportation would be really beneficial to the country. I wrote a bit more on that, and I think I was lucky to get that. But your academic performance is really important. That I would say. So a second class upper to a first class in university is really important. I know people who didn't get that, but they got scholarships. That's also grace because I'm a Christian. I believe in God, so other things can happen through God. But then that's how it happened for me.
Okay, interesting. That's good to know. The grace factor also helps. Yeah. So, Paulina, I'm curious. What was the process for the visa? You've gotten the admission. Now it's left with you to go and hop on a plane. But before you go hop on the plane, they say that they need Nkrata. How did you get that?
So the process to the UK is not that difficult, in my opinion. Maybe because I haven't tried other countries. All of the other countries I traveled to before I came to the UK, it was those ones were also simple, but because it was for international training. But for the UK, if I remember correctly, you just needed to, for me, because I got a Government of Ghana scholarship, I needed to show some proof of funds. I don't remember it being that much. But then again, at the time, the cedi to the dollar and pound ratio was not as it is today. This is 2019 we're talking about. So it wasn't that bad. So you needed to show proof of funds, and then show that you had the admission. So you submit your admission letter, and what else did I need? Then you had to do the TB test. When I was coming, I was pregnant, so I thought they would not let me do the TB test, but I still needed to do the TB tests. Charlie, I check a crime to me if you forgive me.
Well, I'm curious, did you have to go for an interview?
No,
Okay.
no. The UK process, you just go, you fill the form. So like in the form, I think they ask all the questions they want to ask you. And then you just go and do the biometrics. Oh, yes, I did an interview. I remember. Yes, for school, you do an interview. Yes.
Okay.
I did a short interview. It wasn't anything extraordinary. I think they just wanted you to show that you had the admission, what program you were going to study, and then how you are going to fund your studies. Nothing too difficult, nothing extraordinary. So yes, there was a short interview. Yes, I think that for coming to school, the UK, you do an interview. My apologies, I forgot.
Okay, cool. I don't blame you. After people have gone to learn so much, I'm even surprised to remember anything.
No, mine is mommy brain. It really has nothing to do.
Interesting.
Mine is purely mommy brain, Charlie. It's purely mommy brain.
Okay, so just another one following that is when I hear people who want to go to the US or go to any country abroad, they are usually thinking about getting agents. Personally, when I was getting to the US, I didn't need an agent until like visa appointments thing. Then you have to try to get some assistance. What role do you see agents playing in this whole migration process?
I think that we rely on agents because sometimes my apologies for this, but I think sometimes we are just plain lazy. You really do not need an agent. You just have to answer the questions correctly. And then I don't really know any role that an agent plays, apart from maybe the fact that sometimes they have done it for long, so they can direct you on what to do. Like when my husband was applying, for example, he applied on his own. He didn't really need an agent. Like you just have to show that you have all the documents that they are asking for. I think sometimes we are afraid and sometimes we are lazy too. But really, I do not think that you need an agent unless, like in the US one where you are looking for a date. And I sometimes blame the embassy staff for some of these things. But in the UK, application process, you do everything online. So you choose the dates that you can go for your biometrics and everything online. So you really do not need an agent. And I am not sure if they're able to change, for example, the dates that you have to go for the biometric appointments and things like that. I doubt it. I really doubt it.
Okay, gotcha. So agents not so necessarily sit down, do their research, answer the questions on your own. Okay.
Yeah.
Rufus, what about you? What do you think of the role of agents? Do you align or do you see some aspects that maybe people need help with?
Yeah, I mean, the issue of agents, I'm not sure whether agents that's got to do with your application or agents that's got to do with your visa application.
Either of them.
Okay. I don't think I needed an agent for both really. Because I wrote my statements myself. I had, of course, my lecturers review my application, my personal statements, and those kind of things. In terms of the visa application, I think I met one lady at KFC. She works with BCI, I think, and then she prepped me through a few questions. But then those questions were the same questions that I had with the lady I met at Golden Beam. So I think I agree with what Paulina said. You don't really need it sometimes if you are not tensed about the situation, because for me it was like my first opportunity to travel outside, make sure everything is right, if that makes sense. So getting someone to assist you, I was kind of, okay, let me see what she's going to say. But after the first meeting, I was like, oh, okay, I've got this. And then I think In 2018, we're supposed to go for interviews, but the day I went for my interview, there was no internet. There was no internet at the consulate. So I think they gave me, I did a phone call. So to be honest, I practically read what I've written down to the woman I spoke to. And then I left the place. So that's how it was for me in terms of the visa. But one of the things that she mentioned about your statements are also really important. Getting your statements together. If you are not sure, then probably an agent could help you. But it's not really difficult because the checklist will be there. Because once you are doing the application, it says submit your application, submit your TB test, submit your this, submit your that. So if you gather your documents, you should be fine. You should be fine with that. But in terms of the university applications, I think some people need agents to help them. And not only getting the offer to come and study, but there are other things that some of these agents can help you with. I think if we have time, I'll probably share based on other questions about immigrations and stuff like that.
Okay, gotcha. So I wanted two perspectives on this because I keep hearing people talking about obscene amounts of money that they want to pay to agents. Like, all right, you don't have this money. You're going to borrow this money to get this opportunity, and then you get into Obima, into a foreign country. You have no one, and you're already in debt, and you have to figure out so many things. Whereas if at the beginning of the process, you do all the necessary research, read through the websites, just follow the instructions, like you did, Rufus, getting some people to proofread the stuff you write. You know, it will save you thousands of pounds or thousands of dollars that some people throw away. Speaking of throwing money away, how much money do you think is involved in this process? Because people say, "Oh, try to get a scholarship," but we all know, even though you are getting a scholarship, even if it's fully funded, it's not like you just pack up your things and then not a single CD of yours will leave. You know, so what does money look like in this whole process?
I mean, just to clarify, I didn't pay anything to an agent. It was just a lady someone introduced me to, so I didn't really pay any monies to agents. So I kind of saved on that. In terms of coming to the costs involved, as you mentioned, in 2019 for her, I think the CD to pound rate was okay. I think mine was about £6, 6 CDs to a pound, but now I guess it's around 16. So I remember I paid around 5,000 CDs, for my visa application, and that was with priority service as at that time. But now I've just done an estimate, and it's around 23,000 CDs. That involves your visa fee, which is $643 for a student. You need to do the TB test, which currently says $120, depending on where you do it in the country, or $130, depending on where you do it. I think Kumasi and another place are $120. Most places in Accra are $130. And then the health surcharge in the UK now has increased a lot. I think when I was coming it was around 4 something, now it's 776. So using today's exchange rate, that's around 23,000 cedis in terms of visa application alone. Now, I think Paulina mentioned a few things about showing the amount of money you have in your bank statement and stuff like that. I had to do that. And that's one thing people need to know, because if you are coming to the UK, you have an offer to study. So that's one. You need to show that you've got your fees covered. You've got your living expenses also covered. So if you have a scholarship, it reduces your burden. If you have a scholarship which covers both tuition and both tuition and your living expenses, easy. You get a visa. So it's so easy to get a visa. However, if you've just got the fees covered, then you need to show proof of funds for your living expenses, which you need to show in your personal bank account or your dad's bank account. It has to be just a direct guardian. It can't be your uncle or anything. And those accounts shouldn't show things which involve like any investments. Any investment shouldn't show any investments. And when I was coming, I had to show. I remember I was around 60,000 cedis because you had to show £9,135 in your account. So that was the exchange rate at that time. Now I don't know what 9,000 pounds will be in cedis. It will be a lot. So you have to show that for 30 days in your bank statement, and then you print that out in addition to yours. However, if you don't have fees and you are going to pay your fees yourself, then you need to add the fees too. Fees vary based on where which course you are studying. As at 2018, my master's was 21,000. Now it's around 27,000 pounds. So if you convert that to cedis, that's also God knows how much that is. So there's a lot of money involved with that. And one thing about the visa application is if you apply for the visa and you don't get it, there's no refund. You could get a refund on your IHS, which is your health surcharge, but you don't get a refund on your visa. And the UK system is such that you must try and get your application right. So a few people have made these mistakes where they've used their parents' statement and their parents have accounts where there's investment in it. They'll reject your offer. I think when I was coming, I had two people who did that, and then their visa applications were rejected. So it's something to check on as well, because you don't want to pay that money, and then now you don't get a visa. So those are a few things I remember on the application.
Okay, that's good information, updated information on the various fees involved. And of course, I can imagine there's the air tickets, there's your rent. Like what other costs do people need to think about before they get there? Because some people will want to see, they'll have the money in the on the statements. That's okay. But you also need to make sure that you have the money in your pocket so that you can eat. What other costs do people need to anticipate?
Okay, so accommodation here is really pricey, and it depends on where you are. If you are in London, then I'm sorry, you'll be paying a lot more than those outside London. So I think when I came here, I was in a shared accommodation. So I paid around £400 as at 2018. There's no difference now. Depending on where you are, you might be lucky, you might get some cheaper. But on average now, we are working around £650 for rent in the UK. That's in Nottingham. Like I said, you may be in other places, and then the price varies a bit. If you're further up north, it's quite cheaper than south. So that's the amount you would have to probably plan to be releasing every month for your accommodation. And one important thing here, which I probably need to share, I put this down to share is, I know when in Ghana, for example, you want an accommodation, you try to reserve it. If you are reserving university accommodation, you must be very careful with the reservation. When you are reserving an accommodation, it means you are signing up for that accommodation. So when you arrive in this country, they are waiting for the money. You can't come here and say, okay, I've changed my mind. You bear the full consequence. And I'm talking from experience. University accommodations are also pricey, around 7,000 per year, 8,000 per year, 9,000 per year. So if you sign up for that in Ghana thinking, I'm just using it to show that I've reserved. No, it doesn't work that way. When you come, you pay. Someone that I had to assist to sort out that situation, it was really, really, really difficult. And the universities, now the UK is going, most universities are losing money after the Brexit, but they don't talk about that. But they need money. So any small thing now, they'll make sure they bill you. So if you are trying to reserve accommodation and stuff like that, you must be really careful about that. But when I was coming, another thing that I had issues with when I was coming in terms of accommodation, I had paid the accommodation in Ghana through Ghana, but the money arrived here in 3 days' time. So when I came to the country, my landlord that I thought I'd paid the money to had not received my money. So he had given the accommodation to someone else. So when I came here, I was lucky to find a Ghanaian who hosted me for the first night. And then I had to find one immediately. So we had to search, and I got one. So in terms of accommodation as well, you need to prepare in advance, which is difficult because you probably have to wait as well, see if you will get the visa and stuff like that. And that's one of the things which made me delay, because I had to show 30 days for my bank statement, and that delayed me. So I had to wait. I started saving the money. I don't remember, July. I got it somewhere in August, and I need to apply for the visa. The visa takes 3 weeks. So I got my visa quite late, which meant I had to book flights after getting the visa, which was, I don't think my flight was expensive because I did a transit through Kenya, I think. So it was cheap during, as at that time. But now, you can't really do transits to other countries like European countries. You need a transit visa, which also takes time. So most students have to take British Airways, which is also expensive. So in terms of flight tickets, I can't tell how much you have to pay because it depends on when you are booking your flight and all that. But you can go through Turkey. That I know you can go through Turkey without any problems. And that's just 11 hours away from the UK. 7 hours to Turkey, 4 hours to the UK. So these are a few things that I can share about coming here and the cost involved. But the flights, I'll not be able to mention exactly how much you pay, but it could be pricey. It could be cheaper depending on where you are going.
Oh, that's good. Thank you for sharing those. This gives some thoughts to people as they are thinking about making this trip. You really have to sit down and draw up a budget, have a conversation with somebody, play back this conversation, for example, get on YouTube, people who've moved, get enough information about what to anticipate. You can never be well prepared enough. You have to over prepare for these things, because imagine you show up and then you are stranded. You have to figure out where to sleep on your first night. Already you're emotional about leaving your home country, leaving all the doom stuff behind, all those emotions, the uncertainty, all that, and then you're going to add this to the mix, so you can never be well prepared enough. So do your research. So coming back to Paulina. So Paulina, you are done with your PhD now. We can call you doctor. In fact, both of you are done with your PhDs. We can call you doctor. Paulina, I know something unique about you is that you had a family. You didn't go with your family, the entire family immediately, but now your husband has joined you. I think that your other child has also joined you. So what's the immigration process beyond school like?
Okay, so beyond school, the thing is that I had both of my children here. So like I said at the beginning, I came pregnant.
Born for Ghana,
PhD pregnant. Nope.
Continue.
So, I came first. I came in September, and my husband came in December of that same year. So what we did was that he also had to show proof of funds. Unfortunately, like I said, I can't hear a thing when Rufus speaks, I can't hear a thing. So, but I'm sure he has talked about the immigration health surcharge. So he also had to show proof of funds. He paid for the immigration health surcharge. Then, we had to show that we were married. So he had to present our marriage certificates. And then I sent proof that I was a student, at the University of Westminster. So the universities will give you a letter that he can attach to his application. And then the visa application fee, if I remember correctly, I think that's about it. And then he had to do the TB test as well.
Yeah. So now that you are done with all that, you've gotten in, you are done with school. Like what's your process for staying legal in the UK? Because comparing my experience in the US, I got in on a student visa. And I can imagine you got in on a student visa. What do you transition to after school, assuming you want to stay in the UK? And how about your spouses? are they also allowed to work?
Yes. So it's the other thing. I understand that in the US, your spouse cannot work if you are on a student visa. That is what somebody told me. I don't know for sure, but that is what I was told. Okay. So in the UK, there is the graduate visa, which allows me to stay here for 3 years after school if I want to, because I did a PhD. I think if you did a master's, it's 2 years. And then there is the global talent visa, as well. But what I'm currently on now is a skilled worker visa. So if you can get an employer to give you a certificate of sponsorship, then you can stay on as a skilled worker. So my husband and my children are dependent on my skilled worker visa.
Okay, and how long is the skilled worker visa status?
It depends on the contracts that you have with your employer. So if you have 3 years or less contract with your employer, then you get 3 years or less visa. If you have more than 3 years, I think the maximum is 5 years. That's how long, like, you can apply straight for, even if you have a permanent job, like if your contract is permanent. I think you have to do a 5-year one first. So that's how it is. So depending on the kind of contract you have with your employer, you get either 3 years or less. The visa application fee for that is different. The IHS charge is calculated the same way, but because it's between 1 to 3 years, you may probably pay less. But if it is 3 years or more, up to, I think, 5 years, then you pay the IHS for those number of years. I am sure Rufus can explain better.
Okay, all right, I see. And just on the skilled workers visa, is it what, touch wood, God forbid, of course, but assuming you have to change employers or you lose an employer, what's the process? Are you given some grace period?
If you lose, I'm not sure. These are not things that I have given my mind to. Mm-hmm. These are not things I've given my mind to, maybe because of the way my contract is. But these are things I really haven't paid a lot of attention to.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Let's see. Rufus, how about you? What's if you don't mind sharing, well, you don't even have to say which status you are on, but post school, is your residence in the UK based on you having a job or not?
Yes, I think Paulina said quite a few. I'll just start off from where she ended. In terms of if you lose an employer or something, if you are on a skilled worker visa and lose an employer, then you have 60 days to get onto a new visa, or then you have to leave the country. So you have 60 days for that. Now coming back to the routes that you can have after studies, she's mentioned 3 years after the PhD. That's there. 2 years if you study the masters, you have that option. And during those times, because those two, that route doesn't give you it doesn't add to your, in case you are looking for permanent residency, it doesn't add to your the number of years that you can accrue for that. So you probably, whilst you're on that, you probably be looking for a skilled worker visa, which she is on, because that would count towards your permanent residency. And a skilled worker visa, as she said, depends on your employer. If you get an employer who is going to sponsor you, then great. Now, because the graduate visa route is there, some employers are using that instead of sponsoring people. So, for example, if you had finished your PhD or your master's, instead of them sponsoring you, they will force you to get onto that because they will not pay any money on you. So then you'll be on the graduate route visa and you can work for them. If they want to sponsor you straight away, they do sponsor you. And as she said, depending on your contract, you can get 3 years, or up to 5 years, depending on what you are on. And in terms of how to transition from there to permanent residency, I've learned that you don't really should advise people on these things, because it's if you tell someone something, they may think that's the exact thing, but in immigration changes, like things change. Because I've been on the skilled worker visa, I've been on the student visa, I've been on the tier 2 visa, because the names keep changing. So I've been on different visas, and each time the rules are a bit different. Not so different, but there are little bits of additions and subtractions here and there. So at any point in time, if you want a particular visa, then you probably have to check the .gov website and get the most recent information on that. But these are the routes that you have after studies. You can have a skilled worker visa. You can get onto the global talent visa. I've had a few friends go onto the entrepreneurship visa, which gives them like a year or two. And also, if you're able to marry here, I think she was married already, so she was fine with that. You can have a dependent visa. Or if you get married to someone here who already has it, then you can get a dependent visa and stay on. Then from there are different rules on getting an indefinite leave to remain in the country, which depends on the route in which you were on. If you have stayed here for 10 years, you can get that. If you work on a skilled worker visa for 5 years, you can get that. If you are working on if you've been on different visas like me, then your situation is quite different. You may have to speak to someone, a lawyer or someone who deals with this, to advise you, to give you the best advice on that. But these are the options that you have after studies.
Gotcha. So best piece of advice is talk to a professional so that you get what's the current rules and circumstances based on your situation. All right.
Yeah, and they are free. These things are free. So, for example, any immigration challenge that I have, I always speak to the university immigration team, and it's free. They will just book an appointment for you. They can book an appointment through other lawyers or other immigration advisors who deal with different stuff, and they will advise you, and it's all for free. So you don't need to pay anything for it. It's just, they're all free. Most of the things in the UK are free. If you find out, if you make inquiries to find out, they are free, and you don't have to spend money paying someone to give you certain things. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. You know that we like free things. So once we talk free, I can see people's eyes lighting up. All right, that's good to know. There's enough support there to help you through these things. So we've gotten through a lot of technical things. Now, just before we wrap it up, call it a night, I just want us to talk about some of the soft things. I tell people that when I was coming to school in the US, my whole focus was academic and career. Those ones were sorted. I chose the right one for that. But the social, I took it for granted. And it's been an intense cultural shock. So can you tell us a bit about the cultural shock? If you had any, how you handled it? What's life like in the UK and all this in a perspective of like, what do you tell people to prepare for that kind of life?
Basically, I think one thing that I was shocked, like when I go into, because while I was leaving to get to my faculty in the university, I needed to get onto a hopper bus, which is a university bus. Now, you go there, there's a queue. There's a long queue. One thing is you don't jump a queue. That's one thing I was advised before I even came here. So I knew that you didn't have to jump a queue. And if you try to do that, the person looks at you and says, "I'm sorry." They will not say anything. They just say, "I'm sorry." So you know what you're doing is wrong. And the way the bus system works here is it works with time. So if you're supposed to get there if the bus is supposed to leave at 9:50, you get at 9:16, you won't find the bus. It's not like our system where the driver wants money, so they want to pick you. They stop wherever they want to pick you. Here, if the bus moves, they will never stop for you. The bus will just leave. So that's one thing. If you want to get on the bus and get to your place at the right time, you must leave on time. In terms of, so for example, you have a class at 9, you must make sure you leave before then. Once at 9, they start teaching. There's nothing like waiting for you. And one thing which, the food in the beginning was very difficult for me because you had to be eating chicken and chips every time. So that's another thing that, I'll talk about. The weather as well here. It can be sunny, but if you try to go out without your jacket, you feel it. You feel it. So that's one thing. Even if it's sunny, just carry something, that you can. And it rains here a lot. So, it's something you must also, help yourself with. And you can do that using weather apps. So before you go out every day, you just need to ask your app whether, it will rain or what would the weather be like today, and then just prepare towards that. I think so. That's all I have to share on that.
How about on the social supports? How easy was it to make friends, or did you have enough friends and family there already?
Ooh.
Human beings.
No, I do, of course. Yeah. The good thing for me was, when I came in, like I said, my accommodation issues was a problem. So someone helped me. I got a church here, Harvest Chapel. They sent people to me, came to pick me up to find accommodation. So they were really helpful. So in terms of I got close to a Ghanaian community. And then that they were really, really helpful. In terms of making friends, I made friends with my colleagues. And on the master's program, I was mostly with Chinese. I mean, if you come to my university, you probably think, you're in the business department, you probably think it's you're in China. Because you've got so many Chinese students in here. So I made friends with Chinese people from different countries in my class. I wasn't really much of someone who was going out, especially during my masters, because I only had one focus, which was just the books, just to make the grades and then get a PhD opportunity. So I was more focused on that. I wasn't really chilling like that. But after I finished the masters, yes, I looked out for that. So yeah. But the opportunity is there to chill. It's very weird. I find it a bit weird for me how they chill here because of the weather, how people dress, and they're outside in the cold because they have to look how they want to look. But that wasn't my style. So I didn't really do that.
Interesting. Heads down, keep walking. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Paulina, how about you? Oh, wait. And before Paulina, in case anyone is wondering what we are here talking about, we are talking about moving to the UK, and especially with a focus on going through the route of education. We have Rufus and Paulina here who have successfully completed their PhDs in the UK and are continuing on to work. So if you joined late, you can always play back the conversation here on X or in a few days on wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. Just search for Money Convos. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, please send a DM so that I could ask the question for you. Okay, so Paulina, on to you too. On the softer non-academic side of things, how was life in the UK?
All right. So for me also, I lived with she's a British citizen. She's Ghanaian, but she's a British citizen also. Because I was coming in pregnant, I needed somebody to help me around. So a friend introduced me to a friend who has now become like family. So that wasn't difficult. She came to pick me up from the airport, sent me home. We lived there for a while and then moved out, I think, after about a year. On the funny side, like Rufus said, the English weather has a mind of its own. So even when you have checked the weather apps, like have an umbrella with you every time because it could be sunny one moment and then the next moment is raining. Like the weather has no character. It has no character. The other interesting thing that I see is it will be cold, at least for you as a black person. And then you see a white person in shorts and you're thinking, like, are we all in the same weather? That kind of thing. I did my PhD during the pandemic, so there wasn't a lot of, because I started in September 2019, and then by March 2020, we had gone into the lockdown. So I really didn't have a lot of interaction with my mates. A lot of what we did was online. But when I used to live in London, I attended an ICDC church because I had always known there was an ICDC church. So that kind of was there. When we moved outside of London, thankfully my husband had a sister here in the UK as well. So we lived a bit closer to them. So that helps with the family kind of situation. The other interesting thing was that here in the UK, when somebody asks you, "You're right," you know how when you hear "you're right," you're thinking they're asking you, "How are you?" Like in the UK, "You're all right" is like, "Hi." I didn't find out until much later. So somebody will ask, "You all right, miss?" And I'll say, "I'm fine, thank you." It sounds they're actually just saying hi. So, at least closer to landing, that's the other, cultural shock. Again, things are fast. Like, things are fast here. It's not uncommon to see people running to catch the train or to catch a bus. Things are not as leisurely here as is back home. So at every point in time, like, you need to have your A game on. And you really don't have anybody telling you things. So all the information you need is online. So if you need to look for anything, you have to go online and you have to be that sharp and savvy. Like, you may have a lecture here one day and then the next day they change the venue. So you have to be checking your timetable constantly to know what is happening. I think that's about it for me. For me, I'm not much of a chilling person, so it's just family that keeps me grounded.
Okay, that's interesting. But how about the family aspect? How is it like having a family in the UK?
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. Thankfully, the way my husband and I work, he works at night and I work during the day. So we're able to do that kind of social. But you don't have any family support or anything like that. For me, I do because, like I said, my sister-in-law lives close. So sometimes when we can't do anything, my sister-in-law is able to step in for us. But it's not like in Ghana where you can call your mother to come and babysit for you and things like that. Like, childcare alone will eat all your money. So you have to be smart in how you work if you're a couple, and how you sort yourselves out. The other thing is that, at least in the industry that I work, and I teach, the universities are, or at least my manager is very, very reasonable. So it's easy to ask for adjustments in how you do things. So that is what works for me as well. I don't know if there's anything more to add, but
Okay.
for me, getting a kind employer has been a blessing for me.
Okay, that's interesting. So people need to, as they are looking for jobs, they need to look, don't chase only the money, but also flexible working situation that can adjust to you depending on your own needs. All right, that's good to know. Okay, so we've come to the end of this conversation, and I just have one last question for both of you. I'll start with Rufus. Rufus, what do you wish you knew before coming to the UK?
To be honest, I looked at that question. I didn't have anything to put there because I was like, before coming, I did a pre-briefing. So, like I mentioned, the lady that I met at the Golden Bean Hotel because she worked for the university. So before I came, she briefed me on a lot of things. So I went. I think now she works independently for graduate guidance, which they do pre-briefing. So I think a lot of things that before I came, there were a lot of things that she shared with me. So I don't recall like in 2018 what I should have known before coming. Nothing comes to my head, to be honest. I think I was okay when I came in terms of like I had people to help me when I came in. So it was really good for me. Probably a few things I can mention that it's important to know. Booking tickets is ideal to book tickets in advance. So for example, if you want to, because I'm outside London, so if you want to go to London, and you want to get on the bus, you could get a bus to London for £5, depending on the time you book it. If you want to go to London tomorrow, you book it today, it's going to be expensive. If you want to go to London next month and you book it now, it's going to be cheaper. So you could do that. You should know that before coming. What else? How to cut down bills, probably. How to cut down bills. Because I was a student, I spent most of my time in the university, and it may not be much, but if you charge your phone, you use your laptop, you do everything electronically in the university, you go home, you don't have to charge your phone, so you don't spend you don't spend much on electricity, especially also on heating. Like if you stay in the house on a cold day, you have to turn on your heating the entire time, and that's a lot of money in terms of bills. So spending more time in the university to use the university facilities is important. What else? Getting a bus pass, I was told, so I think I knew about that. Getting a bus pass was cheaper for the year. So when I came in, I bought a bus pass for 239, I think, for the whole year. London will be more pricey. I'm sure probably Paulina would say. Probably more pricing in there. But if you get it for the whole year, it's better because averagely it's like spending spending £1 a day for the entire year. But if you decide not to get a bus pass and you have to go out, and then I remember when I came, it was 420 on a day trip, but now it's 520. So if you have to spend 520 every day, it's going to be more pricey. So booking things in advance, I think, helps a lot to save on expenses. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that's great. Some good hacks to get to know before you get there. Do everything in school. Okay, that's good. Okay, Paulina, how about you? Any things you wish you knew?
Yeah, let me just add to what Rufus said. Like, in addition to doing everything in school, for graduate students at least, if there are events on campus, please attend. Eat some of the food. Like, it's a survival hack. Like, eat some of the food that they provide. I'm not sure there's anything I wish I knew before coming. Apart from the fact that if I had known that there would be a pandemic, I think I'd have signed up myself for the pandemic, because the pandemic also showed like the difference between our cultures. Like here, when they say stay home, you really have to stay home. You know, unlike Ghana, when they said stay home and people went out to see if people were actually staying home. But this is a really well-structured society, very systemic. So the systems work, and because the systems work, people are careful not to go against the system. So when you're coming, you need to have that in mind, that you're coming to a place that's different from what you are used to, the chaos that we are used to some extent, and that here things work a certain way. You can't go and beg for things to be done differently for you, for example. So I'm thinking that this is a different environment from what I am used to. And I think for all the other money hacks that Rufus mentioned, they are valid everywhere, no matter where you are. Thank you.
That's great. Moving to a place where systems work. It's just surprising that when we move out and we are in a place where rules are followed, we know how to obey rules, but in our own place.
So it shows that like if we made systems work, it would work. Do you get what I mean? Because even in Ghana, where there are leeways about everything, in places where systems work, people know that those systems work. Let me give you an example. So I teach at GIJ. My students know that I come to class 10 minutes after they come in, and after that, nobody comes in. It doesn't matter who you are. And I was teaching some very old people. What happened was that once they know the rules, they go by the rules. But if the system is lax such that people think, oh, I can bypass this, like everybody knew that, oh, as for Paulina Crunchy, that's how she is. Like they will insult you and things like that, but they know that's how you are. So they will go by. For me, what it shows is that we just need leadership that insists on things working the way they're supposed to work, so that nobody's calling anybody's uncle to come and beg for them, that kind of thing. Like, we fit into these systems. It means that if these systems were transported back home, we would fit into it.
Okay. That's good. A call for leadership. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, can I add just one more thing?
Sure.
Because you made mention of the food. I don't know why I forgot the food. When in the mornings, usually there's always breakfast in my college, and you can just go for it. It's not like Ghana where you are going for food like Akwawe or Pedro, like that kind of thing. Nobody cares about you when you are going for the food. Whatever you want to pick from the table, you pick and then you go. But then one thing I wanted to add was that there's help for a lot of things that we don't usually get sometimes, especially as a student, especially for extenuating circumstances. So when you are in the uni, you have some challenges, financial challenges, and some other challenges. You can go and speak to the university, the welfare team. They can help you. They can give you information on how to do that. Some submissions, for example, your submissions in terms of your assignments and stuff like that, you may get probably 2 more weeks in addition to your submission time, just for proving that you were in a situation where you couldn't deal with it. So those things are also there. So I mean, I didn't use them because I didn't think they were there until I finished. Because my mind was always just be quick and do things. But sometimes, as Paulina said, she gave birth here, so she may need some time off certain things, and then you should ask. You be granted. Those things are there that you need those help. Anytime you need that help, you should ask, and you get it. Yeah.
Thank you for adding on.
Let me add that, Eligab, like, in 2021, I think. Yes, in 2021, like Westminster gave us free money, PhD students. Like they give us free money. Like they gave everybody £300 for cost of living allowances. These are things that the government of Ghana will not give you,
Yeah.
So, like you said, you ask questions, and when you ask questions, you get the right answers. Sometimes we are just afraid and we're not sure of ourselves, but read the things the university send, which is the other thing. Like there's a lot of information online, which you have to go through carefully. Like I knew that if I wanted to defer because I'd given birth, I'd have to go back to Ghana. I'll lose my tier 4 student status and things like that. So I plowed through. But towards the end, my supervisor helped me to apply for a 2-month extension, kind of a period where I didn't have to pay fees, so that I could round up my study. So all of these things are available. You just have to ask and you will be given.
Yep.
Okay, that's great. In a country where the system works, that's good. So yeah, thank you, Paulina and Rufus, for coming to share your experiences. Congratulations on your PhD, and we wish you all the best over there. Hopefully, I'm sure some people in the audience will come join you there soon, and they'll be leaning on you some more for some tips. Rufus, I know you mentioned some links that you had or some references you had, so you can just share them with Edem later, and then we'll find a way to disseminate to our audience. But
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Great. Thank you all once again, and I wish you a great week. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch you here same time next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our thoughts. I hope you learned a thing or two and start practicing. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook. And subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. Do tell a friend about Money Convos so we all become wealthy together. Talk to you soon.